I'm writing after about 25, 26 years in practicing medicine, I've decided to follow through with an idea I've had on an idea for writing a book called The Holography of Healing. And it was a long time coming, but it grew out of past experience and it grew out of present experience. The present experience is for the last 25 years I've been in holistic medicine, which is by its very nature looking for the wholeness of the organism, and you see it through by looking at parts. And it exists in Chinese medicine, in homeopathy, where you look at a tongue or an ear and you see a representation of the whole body, in the hands and the feet. And in fact, even in allopathic or Western medicine, there's that kind of phenomenon where you have a symptom of shoulder blade pain and the doctor thinks gallstones. Okay. It exists, this holographic quality is everywhere around us. It's in pine needles that look like the whole pine tree and on and on. It's fractal geometry, in fact. So it's part of nature. So in studying medicine, and then when I went in the early 80s, went right into holistic medicine and started using Chinese medicine and homeopathy and nutrition and various intravenous therapies, chelation, and alternative treatments for cancer and any chronic illness. My observations over time were that indeed this phenomenon of holographic quality was indeed present in the human body, absolutely. And so, we try to integrate mind, body, spirit, all those things. That's one manifestation of it. And to get to know who you're dealing with, rather than seeing a gallbladder or a liver or a stomach or a headache, you look at a person and see the wholeness of that person. And the symptom of the illness is a sign, like a road sign. Dangerous curves ahead, go slow. And the person ignores the signs and accelerates and goes off the edge of the cliff. And we're constantly doing that too. So the symptoms are basically road signs, and if you learn how to read the signs, then you can learn how to avoid problems. So what happened was that I started looking at human blood about 20 years ago in Darkfield microscope, and I can show you examples later. And suddenly, instead of dealing with symptoms and organs and organ systems, suddenly you're dealing with what would be the equivalent of a soil analysis. You're looking at the things that make up a larger quantum. The cells, there are billions of them in a drop of blood. As seen through a Darkfield microscope, allow you into an entire different quantum level of reality. And here there's all these cells floating around, and you're seeing them there, and you realize, wait a second, all of these cells are you. And you can see it up on a TV screen, my patient can. And you suddenly realize, well, all of these things are alive and organized. What's tying them together? Why exactly how are they able to behave in a group way to basically make sure that you're alive? So I started observing that with my patients, and I started observing the things that precipitate out of the blood. When you take it out of the body, it goes from a high energy state to a low energy state. And what's happening is that it's dying slowly. but it will live under a slide for a week in a healthy patient. So the longevity of the vitality of the blood tells us something, and the quantity of cells and the quality of the cells, how they behave, how they interact, and what falls out of the serum as the blood is degenerating are crystallized forms that, very interestingly, sometimes present as the shape of organs or structures of the body. And at first I thought it was like a Rorschach test for me, and I was beginning to see spinal vertebra images in the blood, and it was entertaining. And I started taking pictures, and I have thousands of pictures. But oftentimes it's not. I'll say, by the way, do you have a back pain? And the person will look at the vertebra, will say yes, and then I'll point out the image that I've seen occurring, and I basically arrived at a conclusion that the blood, which is a complex system, has many levels of reality the same way as what's in front of us. I mean, all of life is a complex system. It occurs in this symmetrical relationship between chaos and stasis, between symmetry and predictability, and random occurrences, which is what makes life interesting, I suppose. But in the other sense, what occurred in the blood, and I could only describe it in terms of holographic phenomenon. You have basically like a snowflake taking on the shape of a energetic field. Now there's a harmonic energetic field in which you might call the frequency of life or harmonics of life. And when there's a distressed toe or a liver or a headache, there's a dissonance. There's a disharmonious counter rhythm or frequency. Now, all of holography or all of holographic phenomenon are comprised of a reference beam and an object beam. So the reason that holograms occur, if you ever see on a credit card, you see the little bird image and you can look around it. Everyone knows those. Those are reflex holograms. Those were created by splitting a beam in two, and one beam goes directly to the photographic plate, and the other one is diverted and passes through, diffused through the image of the bird. And on the photographic plate you have the reference beam, which is undisturbed photons of light, and the object beam, which is a diffused, scattered array of information. And the two together create an interference pattern that creates an image. So going back to the blood, I had to describe this phenomenon in front of a group of 100 doctors one time, and I thought, well, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to get up and say there's a liver in your blood, or there's a bone in your blood, and I'll be laughed off the stage. And if I said it that way, I probably would have been. So I had to read up and think about this in terms of the blood being a complex system, and a lot of information I derived from complexity theory, along with holographic phenomenon and the theory of holography and the reality of holography in nature, allowed me to describe how in any complex system you have emergent phenomenon. Unpredictable things occur. You take a molecule of water, you have Mickey Mouse, 2 ears, H2O, okay? It looks like Mickey Mouse. And the two oxygen, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen molecule, when you put 10 to the billionth power number of molecules together, create an ocean. Now, what happens with an ocean? Well, hurricanes, clouds, rain patterns, weather patterns, currents, waves, tsunamis, totally unpredictable by looking at the structure of that one molecule of water. You could never predict it. And so any complex system, including the human body, has emergent phenomenon. People become experts in all kinds of different ways, and we see the gawky child turn into an Einstein, or we see, that's an emergent phenomenon. Life, in fact, on the planet is an emergent phenomenon from a complex system. So why not the human blood? It's part of the same universe. It's a fractal of the cosmos. And so why not holograms? Why not images or information emerging from a complex system? And that's how I view the human blood. I see it not only in terms of how many red cells you have, how many white cells you have, what kinds of white cells, what kinds of red cells, what shape they are. So the physical reality is one level of reality. There are other levels of reality in terms of the longevity and vitality of the blood that actually allow me to project the overall vitality of the person by observing it over time. So you add time into the analysis and it creates another emergent phenomenon. And then these fractal pictorial random events emerging out of the serum that have a very interesting, if not direct diagnostic value, a very interesting observational value for me and for my patient, because it's their blood after all, and it's their show in a way. And for me, it's simply the observation of the human body. And so I have literally thousands of these images taken from thousands of different little sections of time with various patients that show the phenomenon in all kinds of different ways. Now, we're constantly going into new things in medicine. Medicine is a quickly emerging biological science. In fact, there's an explosion of information. So there are many possible applications of darkfield microscopy for not only clinical medicine, but just theoretical medicine and the observation of cellular phenomenon. And it's too bad most doctors don't have the time to spend looking at things in that microcosm, because we tend to focus on the here and now and the headache and the this and that and the hard macro reality of the body, when there's this whole other dimension that may or may not be related to my headache or my stomach or my leg or my knee, although tangentially it is related, absolutely, because it's the stuff that makes up those larger phenomena. But then there's an independent reality behind the blood as well. And sometimes they coalesce into a predictability for a patient's management and care, and other times they're just beautiful geometric forms and shapes, which are quite beautiful to look at. For that level, there's this biofeedback phenomenon occurring when a person sees their own blood. It's like opening a window to a part of themselves they've never seen before, which is quite interesting. And it does draw people into their body more and become more centered that way. So the observation of the blood has a holographic quality, and it actually has a biofeedback holographic healing aspect to it. Now,